Good evening, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to the January 20th, 2021 virtual meeting of the Board of Selectmen. I'm going to read our preamble that we do in each of these meetings. Good evening. As Chairman of the Board of Wolfeboro Board of Selectmen, I'm declaring that an emergency exists and I'm invoking the provisions of RSA 91-A:2, 3B. Federal, state, and local officials have determined the gatherings of 10 or more people pose a substantial risk to our community and its continuing efforts to combat the spread of COVID-19. In concurring with the determination, I also find that this meeting is imperative to the continued operation of town government and services, which are vital to the public safety and confidence during this emergency. As such, this meeting will be conducted without quorum of this body physically present in the same location. At this time, I also welcome members of the public accessing this meeting remotely. Even though this meeting is being conducted in a unique manner under unusual circumstances, the usual rules of conduct and decorum apply. Any person found to be disrupting this meeting will be asked to cease the disruption. Should the disruptive behavior continue thereafter, that person will be removed from this meeting. So please note that all votes that are taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call vote. So we'll start the meeting by taking roll call attendance, and when each member states a name, please state whether there is anyone in the room with you during this meeting, which is required under the right to know law. Linda, we'll start with you.
I'm here by myself in a room in my house.
Thank you. Dave Senico.
Dave Senico, I'm in a room by myself.
Paul.
Good evening, Mr. Harriman. Paul O'Brien, I'm at home in a room by myself.
Thank you. Dave Bowers.
I'm with Christy nearby.
Thank you, Dave. And I'm Brad Harriman. I'm also here at home in a room by myself. All right. Mr. Pino, do we have a need for a non-public session this evening?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. We do not have a need for non-public.
Yay!
Hey! Okay. Next on the agenda is consideration of minutes of December 29th, 2020. Do we have any comments or corrections to these minutes?
Yes, I do.
We got Paul on here
Okay.
first. He beat you to the
Let Linda go first. She, you know, let her go first. Go ahead, Linda. Go ahead.
one of you anyway.
Yeah, one of you.
Go ahead, Linda.
Come on.
Let Paul go.
Okay.
He's by my-
Mr. Chairman, on page 2, section 2, under public hearings, I would like to ask you all to consider maybe a rewrite of the notation Chairman Harriman reads. As I read this, it is a little unclear, at least to me. And I'd like to offer the following. Chairman Harriman read a letter that will be presented to the Budget Committee at their December 30 meeting. The letter addresses the Board of Selectmen's concerns regarding assertions of gender bias in compensation. The letter also addresses the Budget Committee exceeding its statutory authority over several meetings by singling out 3 individuals for salary treatment. And the letter addresses the Budget Committee holding an unnoticed meeting and discussing a town department head's ongoing salary as witnessed on community television. I also have and I'll provide that to the to our minute taker. I also on page 4, at the bottom of the page, Article U, the last 3 words, it says wait right now. It should be wait, meaning what you put on a scale, W-E-I-G-H-T, not hold. Okay, so the Wayland Fund isn't carrying its own weight right now. Aside from that, Mr. Chairman, I have no other changes. And I ask the pleasure of the board if you want to accept the changes that I recommended for the preamble.
Okay. Linda?
Yeah, I have on page 5, it is under F, and it says Ms. Murray, and I'd like it to read, in the 2020, the town warrant article general fund cash appropriation was around 2 million. And then the next sentence is, why would we not use unassigned fund balance money to bring down the bonded amount? So that sentence will go to that. On the next page, page 6, and it's under D, and it's the last sentence, and it says, Mr. Pinio, action of 550,000 from, and it should say the unassigned fund balance, so unassigned needs to be in that.
Yeah.
Under T, there's a motion, and we need the roll call, because all our votes are by roll call, so that just needs to be, everybody's name needs to go in there. On page 9, the first sentence, this is Ms. Carpentier, and it should say, took 2020, I think it should say estimated revenues, and compared it to actual. But these, and I think it is preliminary figures and not final. And that's all I have. Oh, I do. We need to have attached the letter that we sent to the budget committee, and we also should have the draft of the warrant articles that we're talking about at the time attached to these minutes.
Yep. Yeah, thank you. I was going to bring that one up too, so thank you.
Yep.
Anybody else have anything? I'll just say I have no problem at all with Paul's rewording of the his first one there on page 2 about the letter that I read into the record to be presented to the budget committee. If everybody else is good with that, we'll accept that as a one of the corrections to the minutes. And if there's nothing else, I'd entertain a motion to accept them as amended.
So move.
Second.
A motion, a second, to accept the December 20th minutes.
Just one
29th
point
minutes. Thank you.
comment, and I think Linda
As
pointed out.
As amended. Any other discussion?
Hold
Seeing none,
on.
I'll roll call. Oh, yes, Paul.
Yeah, Linda, I think you pointed out, just so I'm clear, on Article T, there needed to be a roll call vote. There also had to be a roll call vote on Z and X as well. Or maybe it's on the next page. Never mind. I don't know whether that Z roll call vote is incorporated in for the library generator. So we just got to make sure the roll call votes are there. That's all. We don't need to amend the minutes, just update them.
Okay.
Paul, I wasn't sure whether we did a roll call vote on all of them.
Aren't we supposed to?
Well, some of them weren't ready to be moved forward.
Right. Some of them
That's
are
why it's
forwarded.
hard to tell without the minutes without what we were working from behind.
Well, you know what we'll do? We'll give that to Jim to research it. Over to you, Jimmy.
Can't say no.
Call the question, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, any other discussion? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote. Linda?
Yes.
Dave Senical?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Dave Bowers?
Yes.
And Brad Harrell votes yes also. All right, thank you. Okay. Next item. Public hearings for unanticipated funds. Let me skip anything here, did I? Turn the page.
Nope. Not yet.
Not yet.
I got it. Yeah.
Give us time.
Yeah.
Okay, first one, Wolfeboro Board of Selectmen will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, January 20th, 2021 at 6:30 virtually or via GoToMeeting platform for the acceptance of unanticipated funds for an amount awarded that is less than $5,000 in accordance with RSA 31:95B, relative to a donation from the Wolfeboro Chamber of Commerce our town, TOWN, with periods in between each letter. Project is in the amount of $1,927.95 to be used at the town's discretion on beautification of Wolfeboro, such as new light posts. I understand Mary DeVries, is she with us here this evening to speak to us about this?
She is, Mr. Chairman.
Hi, yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. So our town project, Thinking of Wolfeboro Now, was established many years ago now, and then a few years into it, the Chamber of Commerce, in cooperation with the town of Wolfeboro, town big part of it, the town actually brought in 2 sample light posts, so different styles, and those were attached to telephone poles near the Wolfeboro post office. And so the chamber during that time had ballot boxes available to the general public to cast their vote for which one they liked. I guess I'll turn my video on. Which style that they preferred. And then coinciding with that, people were invited to contribute financially. So fast forward, our Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors thinking now is that although our town project's large umbrella element was the burying of utility wires on Main Street, we have watched the town implement many of the other elements in the project, which include the pocket parks that the town has done and the beautiful light posts throughout the town of Wolfeboro. So we're thinking, why hold on to this money? Let's give it to the town the next time, maybe at Dockside, for example, if you're doing some beautification there. It's a little bit of money to contribute towards one of those elements, such as the light post. So we're happy to be able to move that forward as the people wished it to be.
All right, thank you, Mary. One question I got before we open the public hearing, Mr. Pino, is there an account kind of set up to accept a fund like this, so it's basically earmarked for these type of projects, or does this just go into the general fund and kind of get lost in there? How does that work? Or first, Casey could answer that.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I think that's probably more of a question for Casey. Casey, can you help us out?
I haven't seen where the town of Wolfeboro puts items like this, but what I would like to see happen in the future, this would be put in a donation account, which is rolled forward and only can be used for the purpose outlined in the motion that you make tonight. So it can roll over from year to year to year until you hit a purpose that matches up with what the donor wanted. So in your motion today, if you accept it as a donation, I will make sure it goes into a donation account.
Okay, thank you, Casey. Linda?
Do we have to do anything special to get a donation account? Should we make a motion now that the town set up a donation account? Or you can do it, Justin?
Yeah, I can just set up the account. One thing we will do is at the end of the year when I do encumbrances, I usually put the donations on there so you see them, and you can roll them forward from year to year. Also, I think the RSA says I quarterly have to do a donation report to the selectmen so that you're aware of the funds that are in there.
Okay.
Perfect.
Do you have to do that, or is it the trustee of the trust funds have to do that?
I do that. The town would have custody of the money, not the trustees of the trust fund.
Okay, very good. I'd like to move to accept the unanticipated
Well,
funds.
we need to open up a public hearing first, Paul. That's okay.
I'm sorry. I'm
I
sorry.
appreciate the anticipation.
He's trying to move it along, that's all.
He is, isn't he?
Move it along.
Okay. So at this time, I'm going to open up the public hearing to anybody out there that in the audience who would like to speak to this or have any questions for us or for Mary. Seeing and hearing none out there, we'll close the public hearing. Okay. Paul,
Paul,
I'd like to thank Mary for the boldness of the plan. It was incredibly bold to even think about this. And thank you very much for for what you did. So I'd like to move to accept the unanticipated funds for the amount of award that is less than $5,000 in accordance with RSA 31:95/B, relative to a donation from the Wolfeboro Chamber of Commerce, our T.O.W.N. project, in the amount of $1,927.95 to be used at the town's discretion on beautification of Wolfeboro, such as new light posts.
and
second,
to be
I'll second it.
deposited in, and also to be deposited in the account that Casey's going to set up for it.
Exactly right, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Okay, motion is second on the floor. Any other discussion? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote. Linda,
Yes,
Dave Senical,
yes,
Paul,
Yes.
Dave Bowers,
Yes.
and Brad Harrell was yes also. All right. Thank you, everybody, for that. Thank you, Mary.
Thank you, Mary.
Happy to work together again.
All right.
Yep. Okay, next public hearing, we have temporary event permit. Wolfeboro Board of Selectmen to consider a temporary event permit for the Wolfeboro Historical Society to hold antique and crafts fairs, flea markets, historical tea, lectures, and workshops from June 12th, 2021 to October 9th, 2021, from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the Clark Museum at 233 South Main Street. So do we have Pat or somebody here that's going to present this to us? See them or hear them out there, but I know they've come to us in the past for this.
Mr. Chairman, I see a
Yeah.
light going on under a Pat, but I'm not hearing any words.
Yeah, Linda, go ahead while we're trying to
I
get Pat
have a
on.
question about, this is just kind of a blanket temporary event permit, and I do not believe it fits within the temporary event ordinance. I think it says you can have a temporary event for 7 days. I know we've done multiple ones. I don't have an issue granting it, but I just wanted to point out to people that that is not how the ordinance reads, to do a multiple season-long granting of a permit.
So you kind of like, I think I agree with you. We should see more of a detailed of which item would be there on which date and stuff like that, more detailed out. So I agree.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
This is Gene Deneau from the Historical Society. We have specific dates. I don't have them handy. Pat apparently is having trouble getting through to you. But they're all one-day events, similar to what we did last year and have done many times in the past.
But we need to know which event on which date.
There should be a list included with the permit.
Pat can manage to get a hold of you.
Let's see.
So, Mr. Chairman, in my packet, it does have a 2021 Clark Museum events date.
Oh, okay.
This does lay out the dates with rain dates and the specific event which is taking place on that. It's in the last page of the permit.
Okay, I
Brad?
see a lot of, yes.
In the
That's
motion,
it.
if you, it's me, yeah. In the motion, if you want to list the individual dates and rain dates, that might satisfy it being individual events.
I have the document.
Okay.
Yeah, there's nothing unusual in here. It's the normal kind of events that we have staged in the past. The only difference is that we've mapped out the area to provide COVID spacing as we did in 2020.
And thank you for doing that.
Okay, why don't I read into the record here the dates and the events that they have tied to this, so we get it on the record and for the folks that don't have the paperwork in front of them like we do. June 22nd with a rain date of June 27th will be an outdoor flea market. July 8th and 22nd with rain dates of July 15th and 29th. There'll be an antiques and crafts fairs. August 12th and August 26th with rain dates of August 19th and September 2nd. The antiques and crafts fairs. And August 15th to be historical figures tea. Then lecture series would be on June 7th, July 12th, and August 2nd. And a floral workshop on June 12th. And October 9th, an autumn flea market. So those are the events and the dates that we have given to us on their application here. And is that, oh, Linda, go ahead.
Well, then, if that's the case, we do it in this manner. That means that our public works no longer has to come in with one event for the triathlon and another one for this, that they could come in the beginning of the year and list out all the events under one permit. And I think that's different than what we've done before. If we're agreed as a board that we should probably change the ordinance, but we've made people come in multiple times with different events. And it's up to the board whether they want to do that, but she comes in, we probably hold 4 or 5 different public hearings on the different events she's going to have in the summer. So that's why I bring this up, because I think we need to be consistent across the board.
Okay.
Well, the reason we've asked for approval for all of them at once is that we've got to line up the artists. The artists have to set up their schedule early because they frequently go, some of them will go from town to town.
I think, speaking for myself anyway, I don't think we have a problem with these events happening during these timeframes. I think, as Linda's pointed out, that normally people would have, like, say, for instance, your outdoor flea market you have for June 26th. I think what we're kind of saying is that should be like a standalone application. Your antiques and crafts fairs, I think you could lump, correct me if I'm wrong, Linda, if you're thinking on this line or not, antiques and crafts fairs, they have 4 dates here, 2 in July, 2 in August. Would you have a problem if those are all listed on one?
We asked Brewster Academy to bring in all their affairs each time they have it. They have 3 markets, craft fairs, and we asked them to bring them in each one, and they bring them in. Number 1, number 2, number 3. I don't think we have any problem with the events. It's just that if we do it this way for them, then we should do it for Brewster Academy. We should do it for Parks and Rec, and it's a change in the process. I absolutely not any of them do I have a problem. I'm having problems with them being lumped together.
Format, yeah.
Brad?
Yes,
I know
Amy.
I know Pat can't talk, but I think it's not a problem. I'll just work with Pat Hodder and we'll bring him back on individual permits at the next meeting.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the way to go. So that, like Linda said, everybody's on the same playing field. Everybody's treated the same, whether it's Brewster Academy or or, you know, the Historical Society, or just even a very, very small individual group here that's doing something on a nonprofit type thing. So the board kind of concur with that. Does that sound like a good plan to have them come forward with individual applications?
I'll pass the message to Pat, and she'll be in touch.
Okay, thank you, Gene. And thank you, Amy, for working with us on that too. Okay. Next one is the public hearings, the Wolfeboro Board of Selectmen to consider a temporary event permit for the Wolfeboro Garden Club to hold the annual Christmas wreath sales from November 15th to 2021 to November 20th, 2021, from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. at the railroad station on 15 Railroad Ave. We have somebody with us that's going to speak to us on this one.
You want to open the hearing first, Brad?
Well, usually they do a little presentation before we open the public hearing,
Okay, that's fine.
if there's somebody here for it.
Come on, Dave.
What?
Let's see, anybody?
Yeah, I don't see anybody here for it, Brad. I think it was supposed to be
Okay.
Terry White.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't
see, that's
see
a contract. Yep.
She's the one who said it the last time we had it in, what was it, November?
Yeah,
She came.
yeah. So they're redoing it. I can speak just briefly about it, about what I know, why she, you know, they revised this program for the COVID, and they did the drive-by pickup, and it worked so well. I mean, they sold out 2 days early. So, and with the unknowns for next year, I guess they just want to do the same thing. They're all mature volunteers, you know, that want to limit their risk for COVID.
Mhm.
And the garden club is, if people don't know, they do a lot of gardens downtown, all the pretty flowers that you see everywhere. All the wreaths on the town hall this year were from the garden club.
I don't have a problem doing it without them here.
Yeah, I agree. This is a kind of a repeat thing. They're, you know, and they're doing the same way because of the COVID. So, what I'll do, I'll open up the public hearing. For anybody out in the public who might have any comments or questions about this event. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Board members?
I'll make a motion to approve the temporary event permit for the Wolfeboro Garden Club to hold annual Christmas wreath sales from November 15th, 2021 to November 20th, 2021 from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Railroad Station at 15 Railroad Avenue.
We have a
I'll
second by
second it.
Paul. Okay. And that would be contingent upon following whatever governor's guidelines are in for COVID at the time.
Yep.
Okay. Any other discussion? Seeing none, I'll have a roll call vote. Linda?
Yes,
Dave Senical?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Dave Bowers? And Brett Aaron votes yes also. Okay. We have one more public hearing here. The Wolfeboro Board of Selectmen to consider a temporary event permit for the Wolfeboro Cross Country Ski Association to hold a Nordic ski race from February 20th, 2021 through February 28th, 2021 from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. starting at the Abenaki Ski Area at 390 Pine Hill Road and along the Abenaki Cross Country Ski Trails. I think I saw Jim Bean on here a few minutes ago. Jim, are you out here with us who would like to present this?
Sure. This race replaces the winter triathlon that was canceled 2 years ago due to dwindling numbers. So Christine Collins and I ran a race last year. So last year was our first race. We had 16 people. It went very smooth, and I wanted to keep the tradition going, try to build the numbers back up a little bit. The reason I asked for 2 weekends is in case we had a bad weather on the first weekend. The event is hopefully planned for Saturday morning, February 20th. We expect to be out of there by noontime. It's a very low impact event. It doesn't affect the ski tow. It doesn't affect any ski practices that may be going on. And the sport is very well suited for people to show up and start individually. There's no reason to start them as a group, and there's no reason to have an award ceremony. We can mail them the results and any prizes, and I think people like that, the freedom of showing up, putting their skis on, maybe grabbing a bib, and they race and they go home. And we might have a 90-minute window for them to start, and we'll get their finish time and they can go home. And Parks and Rec were reluctant to work with me on the race this year, so I'm pretty much hoping to do it through the Ski Association, who is all in agreement in helping me put this race on.
Okay, thank you, Jim. What I'll do is I'll open this up, the public hearing up to anybody that's out in the audience who would like to ask us or Jim any questions on this. Is anybody out there? Don't see anybody coming on, so we'll close the public hearing. Just one question I have. Usually when we see these, we see sheets that the department heads have signed off on and stuff like that, given their approval or their green light on it. Obviously this one here would be through Parks and Rec with Christine up there using their facility. I'm assuming she's been contacted. Jim, you've talked with her, and she's obviously aware of this and supportive of it.
She has received the application. It had some questions which we've addressed as far as the race course. I have not talked to her personally this winter about the race, just that I've given her the map, and she was involved last year, and it's being run almost identical to last year. So I was available if any more questions came up, but I've answered any questions of her that's come up so far.
Yeah.
Okay.
Brad?
Yes, Amy.
Yeah, so Jim's correct. When Christine reviewed the permit, she had a question about the map, which when that question came up, Jim brought that to me. So and that made it to your packet. And she just wanted to know if they would be doing rentals on site, and Jim said they are not.
Okay.
So with those two questions, then now she's fine with it. But I will have her put her final signature on it for the file.
Okay, I think we could. Wait a minute, yeah. But for some reason I flipped into the next pages there. That's the front page of our application here is what I was talking about. So, but she hadn't signed off on it yet. So, okay, Linda.
Yeah, if I understand right, Jim, you're only going to have the race on one of the 2 days. So you're going to first go for February 20th. If for some reason it can't go, you're going to the 28th. So we could make the 28th rain date.
Exactly.
Okay.
I was hoping to have the freedom of going Sunday, the 21st, and say we just don't have any snow. I'd like to push it to the next weekend, which is both ends of the Winter Carnival week. So it wouldn't be outside those 2 weekends.
Yeah. Only thing that I notice is that your insurance rider is only for the 20th of February. If you have to run it to the 28th, you just need to get us a writer for the 28th.
Yes, I can do that.
Any other questions from the board? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve the temporary event permit for the Wolfeboro Cross Country Ski Association to hold a Nordic ski race on February 20th at a rain date of February 28th, 2021 from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. starting at the Abenaki Ski Area, 390 Pine Hill Road, and along the Abenaki Cross Country Ski Trail, contingent upon them following all the governor's COVID orders and update on the insurance policy if it moves to February 28th.
I'll second that.
A motion and a second. Any other discussion? Seeing none, a roll call vote. Linda?
Yes?
Dave Senical?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Dave Bowers?
Yes.
And Brad Hamel votes yes also. Thank you, Jim. Hope we have some snow.
Yeah, hopefully. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Yeah, I'd just like to add at this point, I'd like to extend a thank you to the Wolfeboro Cross Country Association. Found out this afternoon that we have a problem with our groomer at Abenaki, and they loaned us their groomer to be able to work the site and groom the trail. So thank you very much for the use of that, and hopefully our machine will be back up and running on Friday. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Yeah, that's very nice to hear. Okay. Next on the agenda is public input. Do we have anybody out there at this time that would like to speak to us through the public input session?
Hello, Brad. This is Suzanne.
Hi, Suzanne.
Yes, just a quick question to Mr. Pinio. At the Board of Selectmen meeting for your public presentation of your warrant, there was your typical required Board of Selectmen vote and Budget Committee vote recommendation after each question, but there was also scattered in between some of them what the CIP voted. It wasn't consistent. So my question is, was that just a notation to guide the board in their process? I was hoping to hear that it's not going to be on the ballot.
You're correct, Suzanne. It will not be on the ballot. It was simply there as a process so that we could speak to that with the voters, but it is being removed for the deliberative session presentation, and it is not on the warrant.
Thank you.
Anybody else out there that would like to speak to us? Seeing none, we'll move on to our bulk vote, which includes, yes, Linda?
I need to step down under C, property tax refund number 1 for 51 Mill Street, tax map 217, lot 23.
Would you like to have that removed from the bulk vote and then have that one handled separately?
That would be great.
Okay,
Yes. I'll make that motion that we remove this one from the bulk vote.
I'll second it.
a motion second to remove item 1 under letter C, property tax refund for 51 Mill Street. Any other discussion? To be voted on separately. Any other discussion? Seeing none, have a roll call vote. Linda?
Yes.
Dave Senical?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Dave Bowers? And Brett Herron votes yes also. Okay, so the rest of the bulk vote includes a weekly manifest of January 15th, current use application for land use change tax, so property tax refunds, intent to cut wood or timber, and property tax exemptions and credits. Be bulk item vote A through E. Any discussion, or I'd entertain a motion for the bulk vote with this one removed, with that one item removed.
So
I'll make
moved.
that. Second.
Motion and a second to approve the bulk vote items A through E minus item 1 under C. Any other discussion? Seeing none, I'll have a roll call vote. Linda,
Yes.
Dave Senical,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Dave Bowers, and Brett Aaron votes yes also. Now I would entertain a separate motion for item C1 in the bulk vote.
So move.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve item C1 in the bulk vote, which is 51 Mill Street. Any other discussion? Seeing none, I'll have a roll call vote. Dave Senical,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Dave Bowers, and Brett Herron votes yes also. All right. Thank you, everybody. We have no board or committee appointments this evening, so under new business, approval, and I have an application for us for Caitlyn Fischer, who's our first customer to use the new online system for a wedding that she'd like to have in June of 2020.
21.
Yeah, for June, no, I'm sorry, it's in October 9th of 2021. Do we have Caitlyn here with us this evening?
Caitlin is here. We need to unmute. Turn on your microphone, Caitlin. No pressure.
Just your wedding.
Yeah.
Just your wet. Oh, that's unfair. That's terribly unfair.
That was, wasn't it?
It was good though. I don't know. Okay. Amy,
Yeah,
bail us out.
okay. I hope you didn't put her to sleep.
He probably has one of those other carriers.
Okay, so Caitlin has requested to use Kate Park bands and the community bandstand for her wedding. She has paid the $50. She is using Tulip, our insurance company, through Primex, who will issue her a certificate of insurance. However, they won't issue that until June. That's the earliest they'll do it. Oh, there she is. I just saw her come up again.
Hi, sorry, I didn't have my settings working. So
Caitlin.
yes, I issued a permit to use Kate Park on October 9th, 2021 from 1:30 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. for my wedding. So we'll use the time between 1:30 and about 3 to set up, which my wedding planner, Cheryl Scott, she's local, so she'll be there. We'll have just a few flower arrangements that we'll put down the pathway. And then I also have a violin and cello player that will be seated next to the gazebo. And then the ceremony will start around 3:30 and then be done at 4, and then we'll wrap up and be done by 4:30.
Okay. Any questions for Caitlin from the board?
Caitlin, this is Paul O'Brien. You do know that this is a public park and you'll have Mr. Bowers or Mr. Senical out there photo bombing you during this, right?
Sounds good. They can take as many pictures as they want. Yep, I understand that. And of course, we're going to be respectful of the property.
Okay, sounds good. So you obviously got through the process all right, being our first customer in our online permitting process.
Actually,
Yeah,
she
so-
was,
Go for it.
we had some hiccups with the online. That's all right. We're working on it.
Yeah.
She was my guinea pig. She was good about it.
Okay. Board members,
We need
I would
any-
entertain a motion.
Come on, Paul.
What?
Make the motion.
Oh, I'd like to move to approve the wedding permit to Caitlyn Fischer for a wedding in Cape Park on October 9th from 1:30 to 4 p.m. Contingent upon receiving payment of $50, which I believe she's already done, insurance certificate from Tulip, and all current COVID-19 guidelines are followed at the time of the event.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second on the floor. Any other discussion? Seeing none, I'll have a roll call vote. Linda,
Yes.
Dave Senical,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Dave Bowers,
Yes.
and Brad Hammer votes yes also. So I hope you have a nice weather on that day and good luck with that, Caitlin.
Thank you. And I appreciate the patience with the technical difficulties. Have a
Okay.
good night.
All right.
You
bye.
too. Next on our agenda is a discussion with the Conservation Commission regarding the Front Bay Park invasive species control. Lenore, I believe you're here with us this evening.
Hi, I am. And thank you for inviting us to come speak. And with me, I also have Warren Muir, who's just turned his camera on, and Dan Coons, who's my vice chair. I didn't really have a specific presentation planned. I guess I more wanted to find out what questions you all had. I have forwarded you the proposal, which has not yet been approved, by the way. There's a little bit of misinformation circulating on social media right now. We have approved the first step of that proposal, and it was conducted in December. And we have not yet approved the rest of it. It is up for discussion in March, I believe, is when we agreed to take it up. But I just wonder what questions you folks have.
Yeah, I think obviously we were, made aware of it through all the social media, which you've obviously seen and stuff too, and everything. So we felt it was best to have you guys come join us, have a conversation, find out the details on your end and what's actually going to go on down there, and hopefully put everything to rest is what we're hoping to do here. So.
Absolutely, and I have the proposal with me. I would, if it helps, I can read what the exact steps are that we will be, the next steps that we would be considering. I know certain members of the public are obviously interested in this, so just so everyone knows what we're talking about. And this is directly from the proposal. And this is not just for Front Bay Park, by the way. We are looking at, we have a huge invasive species problem at both the town garden site at the end of Goodrich Road and at Front Bay Park, where a consultant who deals with this professionally came out in November, surveyed both sites, found, and we put a lot of attention on invasive bittersweet because it's the most visible, but he actually found 7 different invasive species at Front Bay Park and 8 different species at Town's Gardens. And just again, for the general public, Town Garden is about 6.7 acres in size. Front Bay Park is a little over 10 acres in size. So I saw one of the comments online on the petition said something about weeding a garden. We're not looking at weeding a garden. We're not looking at spraying anything on a garden. We're looking at, about 17 acres that are rife with invasive species that we are trying to finally, once and for all, tackle in a comprehensive manner that will take care of the problem. So specifically what we're looking at doing is applying a late summer foliar herbicide treatment to invasive plants throughout the site for suppression of regrowth. So just to quickly deal with that, that would be a one-time application for this year. Not saying we wouldn't do it again in future years, but for this year, we're looking at a one-time targeted direct application. So we're not looking to broadcast spray. Like there's a lot of press about broadcast spraying on crops. We're not looking to do that. The company we're hiring to use is a licensed commercial applicator who follows best management practices. That means he knows not to come up and do this on a windy day with his crew. We don't do it on a windy day, so it doesn't carry over to anybody else's property or any other areas. And then the next step after that would be cut off to low stumps and winch chip brush from the larger Norway maples along the trails at Front Bay Park. There's no trails at Town Garden, to suppress growth and reduce physical risk. Spread chips back into invaded areas to suppress invasive seed germination. So the petition that was started, I believe, I wasn't quite clear if it was more people being upset at the idea of us using a glyphosate-based product. There's a lot of press about Roundup and Monsanto and makes everyone go, myself included. I will put myself in that category. Or if it was just herbicides in general. And Warren Muir is here, who many of you are familiar with. He is a chemist by training, was part of the Environmental Protection Agency in its infancy, and can probably speak a lot more to the science behind it than I can. And as you also know, may or may not know, he is one of the founding people who brought Wolfeboro Waters to bear in our town as an effort to protect our lakes. So I feel like he's a good person to speak to that issue if any of you have any chemistry related or toxicology related questions.
All right, thank you, Lenore. Just one quick question I might have is, when we do the spraying and stuff like that, obviously, you're looking at weather conditions and all that, I heard that. Would there be any signage put up to let people know that it's being in the trails and park that time and stuff?
I think that's a great idea, and yes, we would commit to that.
Okay. Board members, any other questions or?
I'd like to hear from Dr. Muir.
Okay.
Well, I'd be interested in what the questions are. Just by way of background on Roundup, it's a controversial herbicide that most of the controversy circulates around two different issues that don't relate to the proposed use, if Roundup is the chemical of choice. And one of them is, does a chronic exposure to glyphosate, which is the active ingredient in Roundup, does that cause cancer? One committee, as part of the World Health Organization, said that they believe it is presumptively a human carcinogen. Other regulatory agencies in the United States and Europe generally don't agree with that. And even if they did think that it was potentially a carcinogen, they look at the risk, which takes into account the exposure. And we would as well. What we're talking about is a very directed spray on basically any small regrowth of the invasive plant in a very localized area, and the characteristics of glyphosate and Roundup is that it does not bioaccumulate. It will degrade over a period of let's say weeks, and it binds to soil, particularly iron-rich soil, which we have, and so it has virtually no opportunity to expose any citizens of Wolfeboro, nor to get into the lake. But I would also point out that it's registered for use and is being used in the United States in hundreds of millions of pounds, and included in its use is even water body applications. And that is not what's contemplated here. We're talking about a very limited amount in very limited space. It's, you know, it's quite toxic to a lot of plants, and so which is why the other controversy associated with Roundup is that Monsanto has created genetically modified seeds, particularly for like soybeans and corn, and then they grow that, and as the plants start to grow, they provide aerial spray of Roundup, and the genetic modification makes the corn and the soybeans resistant to glyphosate or Roundup. And so it kills all the other weeds. And so it's much easier, less expensive than tilling and other forms of agricultural weed control. The concern with that use is that it can stimulate resistant species. It can kill all sorts of natural plants that are important for birds, butterflies, insects, and the environment. And so it's the cancer issue of chronic exposure to people and this type of agriculture that people are most concerned about. But the small directed spraying, it's used, I'm sure, a lot in the town here for such purposes by consumers. It's sold in hardware stores and garden centers, and the Conservation Commission is certainly sensitive to environmental concerns and would not approve something that wasn't best for the environment and best for the town. Does that address anything you might want to hear, Paul?
Yeah, I do have a question, if I could, Mr. Chairman.
Certainly.
So, you know, I saw this this little explosion on social media, and I remember during the budget committee season, Lenore was asked a question about the funds that you wanted for the invasive species control. And there was a question that was asked then by a member of the budget committee, and there was a question that was put on the social media page about the use of goats. The same person introduced that concept both at the budget committee and as a part of this teaming of people who had issues. Please speak to that, because I've done some Googling here, and it seems to be something that people do use. And in fact, a member of the budget committee, not this particular person, reminded us that several years ago we actually used those little critters up at the transfer station to chew up some stuff. So has a non-chemical, I guess that's the bigger question, has a non-chemical treatment been considered for these invasive species?
I'd be happy to speak to that, Paul. Thank you for bringing that up. It definitely hit me a little bit out of left field when it was mentioned at the budget committee, because I had not heard of it. And so I want to first say that nobody would be more delighted to use goats to do this than I would. I think it's such a cool idea. I did read an article that was sent to me by somebody, and I also discussed it with our consultant. And there's no, at this point in time, from what I've seen and from what our consultant says, there's no science behind its effectiveness to control invasive species. What happens is goats eat everything, including the native species. And that's the difference between using them for just for clearing an area. And what our consultant had to say is it makes perfect sense in an agricultural setting because they eat everything. And then he said they tend to bring in pigs after that because pigs will then eat things down really to the ground. And then you've got land cleared for agricultural purposes. Here, in our case, if you knock out all the native species, then who tends to grow back first in an area, in a disturbed area, is the invasive species. And that's, that's one of the insidious parts of the invasive is they grow so fast and so quickly and immediately outcompete for resources all the natives. So, and there's other issues too with, for example, in your watershed or down, for example, at Front Bay Park along the lake, you have goats pooping. Now you're putting more, we're trying to keep that kind of material and fecal contamination out of the lake. So it actually sounds ironic, I know, it's a little weird, but goats can actually present a water quality problem. Now that doesn't address Town Garden, that's strictly for Front Bay Park. But so yes, I did actually consider it and still maintain that this is our best course of action. But I'm also, in that case, speaking as myself, we haven't had a chance to meet as a commission since the petition went online.
Well, thank you for that. I think you have one and the same person at the Budget Committee who would, I'm sure, gladly volunteer goats. But if you folks are, seriously, he said he'd volunteer as goats. But if you folks think that's something that is not viable, that's your thanks.
Like I said, speaking for myself, I haven't even brought the rest of that information to the commission yet. So because we haven't approved this proposal yet, we plan to discuss it at our March meeting.
This is Dan Coons. If I could weigh in for a moment, we have attempted mechanical means to address this in the past and spent a fair chunk of change in doing so. Unfortunately, we found that things grew back quicker than we could actually deal with it by having people out there cutting and pulling and all that sort of thing. This, I think, we kind of feel is a method of last resort. We don't take this lightly and have attempted to deal with it in the past, and it became too much for us. So we felt this may be the best alternative to addressing it based on our resources.
Dan, the other thing to say is this is not being done to the exclusion of cutting. We've had the invasives cut down and the stubble being treated, and this is for any regrowth in the summer. So it's not like a great big area of spraying.
Right. Yeah, it's very targeted application of the herbicides.
One of the questions I kind of have too is, I understand this is targeted to certain, the certain invasive species there specifically. Now, a person walking along the path, stuff like that, obviously, we're up, our heads are up, 5 or 6 feet off the ground and stuff like that. But if they're walking a dog or a pet, dogs tend to walk with the nose stuck right to the ground. Is there any more danger to a pet within a certain time frame of coming along after an application this has been put down on the roots and stuff? Or
this is pretty non-toxic to mammals, including humans, on an acute basis. And so the controversy here with cancer is if an applicator is exposed to it all the time, or you're out there spraying it in the fields, or if you're eating things that end up with, if you've sprayed recently and you're eating crops that have got it in your food and you're being exposed to it all the time, that's the source of the risk. But homeowners use it, and all over Wolfeboro, I'm sure, and it's not a risk to the dogs. It's not a risk to the human.
Yeah, Linda.
Yeah, this sounds very familiar to what we struggle with milfoil. We pulled and we pulled and we pulled milfoil, and we couldn't control it, and then we had to put on chemicals. And none of us want to do that. We didn't want to do it at all, but we couldn't control it unless we did. then we go back to the pulling, and we may pull for 5 years before we have to put on another treatment in order to bring it down. And I think sometimes in order to control, you do need to use a herbicide. And I like the fact that they're going to be very targeted and that they're going to use other methods also. I think that makes a lot of sense to me.
To the board members, any questions or comments? Yeah, Linda?
I just really want to emphasize, we put up signs for when we use the milfoil treatment, and the signage, I think, will be important to make sure you have that up. Our permit requires us by state to have a certain number of signs. But I think if you go the extra step and put the signs up, I think that will help people to know that that's what's happening and feel more comfortable.
Yep, absolutely. I think that's a great idea. And also one other thing I forgot to say too, is that I did snail mail most of the abutting neighbors beforehand and let them know the date that, for back in December, to keep them all informed. And when I say most of the abutters, it's because there were a few who I knew personally that I sent an email to. And, tell them exactly what our intentions were, what he was going to be out there doing, and gave my phone number and my personal email address and said, please get in touch with me. And I will be continuing to update them as the process goes on. So the only trick comes in, for the people that I don't have email addresses for, is if it, again, because there's a weather dependency factor, the consultant could plan for a specific day, but if it turns out to be too windy, then he can't come out. So I will keep people updated as best I can with what's going on when. And honestly, our hope in this is that it will be an example, visible, especially at Front Bay Park, it'll be a visible example to the public of how you can take an invaded area and turn it back into its natural state and make, property, land, private landowners go, oh, that's great. Hey, I want to do that on my property. That's our hope.
Also, any exposure would be limited actually within hours. It doesn't need to be posted for a week or anything, because it goes into the plant and it gets bound into the soil, or essentially right away. So it's not unlike a bunch of other pesticides and so forth, ones where there's ongoing exposure. Where apple pickers need to stay out of the foliage for a week or two after spraying, that kind of thing. This is not that type of product.
Both properties also have very limited access, so it is possible to adequately sign them, and if necessary, block the entrance for a short period of time.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? Ed? Mr. Pinio, yes.
Yeah, I just would like to say that I have done a little bit of reading this afternoon on some of this, and I concur with what Mr. Muir has said regarding the toxicity to animals and the plants. One of the things that I would ask Lenore is if when you are in contact with your contract, they could provide us with an MSDS sheet on the product. That would be very helpful for us to be able to make an educated decision going forward and to work with you on this product.
It's a good catch. Good.
Okay, and I'm sorry, could you give me that acronym again, Mr. Town Manager?
Yeah, material data safety sheet.
Material safety data sheet, MSDS.
Will do.
All right, do we have any other questions from the board or anything? If not, I'd like to thank Lenore, Warren, and Dan for joining us this evening and educating us, and hopefully some of the public that's listening. I think I learned quite a bit about it this evening, and we have a better understanding of what's going to happen at these two sites. So, thank you.
Absolutely, you're welcome. And I will say it was, yeah, this was a good learning experience for me too. I mean, I was trusting the knowledge and the credentials of our consultants, but I hadn't looked that much into the issue myself until it came up on social media. And I spent my entire long weekend doing online research, and there is a lot of it out there. And I really highly encourage, especially members of the public, please, because there's so much information and misinformation online. So do the research, read the abstracts, you know, listen to the science-based blogs and podcasts, and it's really interesting. I found it very interesting. And it honestly, the irony is it made me feel better about doing this. Whereas I first went into this with, oh, it's the lesser of two evils. I really feel a lot better about it now. So that was probably not what the petitioners intended, but thank you again.
In fact, in the petition, I'm quoted in the minutes, and I was asking about whether we needed to hire the professional to do it, because I was concerned about the cost. Because what we're doing is something that is really so straightforward, and the material could be bought at Bradley's, and people are using it all over town anyway. And I was trying to see if there was a way for us to do this in a less expensive manner. Not that it shouldn't be done; it shouldn't be done in this manner. But I gather that if it's town property, we pretty much need to go with a certified pesticide applicator.
Yep.
Okay.
All right, folks. Thank you.
Yep. Good night.
Thank you all very much. Have a good evening.
Thanks, Leroy. Thanks, Tim.
Okay. Next on our agenda is discussion, the finance director, the actual versus budget report for 12/20/20 year end. Casey.
Thank you. So before you, I have a memo dated January 13th for December 2020 preliminary year end. I do want to stress, even though this was done halfway through January, bills were still being paid, you know, for the first 3 weeks in January. We still have year-end entries to be done. So it's directionally a very conclusive report, but it's definitely not done. We will start preparing entries for the auditors and trying to tie up the books and reserves and stuff. But overall, for the general fund, we're slightly less than 100% expended, which is very good. We had a couple over expenditures that we've discussed in prior months, the water leak at Brewster Building, some COVID expenses, but we have offsetting revenues for that. The water fund came in at 93.8% so far. The municipal electric came in at 90.8%. Sewer fund 92.6% and Pop Whalen 89%. We will also need to look at any of the encumbrances. If things have been paid, we'll reduce the encumbrance list. As far as revenues are concerned, general fund is at 103.8%. Also, I want to remind you that some year-end reserves for like uncollectible receivables and that type of thing still need to be booked or looked at. Water fund revenues 99.5%, electric fund 97.9%, sewer fund 109%, and Pop Whalen at 73.8%. And I still am working with Christine, the Parks and Rec director, to finish getting the stuff out of the new software for the Pop Whalen. So as of next week, we kind of wind down 2021 budget. So we'll start focus on preparing to tighten up and complete 2020. If you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to entertain them.
I want to thank Christine. I want to thank Christine for the crispness of getting this piece of paper out the door. That's noteworthy for a few of us. I asked Christine, Chairman, I asked Christine today, roughly speaking, how many of these little lines do we have? And I think she said a couple of thousand. And I just did some math in my head, and I'm not going to share the math because you'll all fall asleep. But we have a handful of town department leaders who have the responsibility of a couple of thousand of these little line entries every month. and we still wind up, pretty close to the pin, as they would say in golf parlance. And I think that's pretty awesome. And I want to congratulate the town department heads, and Christine for giving them a big shout out for the work they've done. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Paul. Any other questions or comments for Casey? Okay. Thank you very much for the update and
You're
the
welcome.
great work.
And this spoke
Thank you.
Kathy, Christine, why did I do that? I was thinking Parks and Rec.
I don't know. I was wondering what
Yeah.
you were talking about for a while.
Would you kind of like wave at me?
Yeah,
No,
I'm sorry, Casey.
Christine appreciates it. I'll pass on the kudos to
Thank you.
Christine.
Very, very thoughtful. I appreciate it.
He's having one of those moments,
Thank
senior
you.
moment.
That's about it for you.
Okay. Next on our agenda is discussion regarding the payment in lieu of taxes agreements. You're going to bring this to us, Mr.
Yeah.
Pinio, or?
So in front of you, you have two of the payment in lieu of tax agreements. The first one relative to Hearthstone Homes, there was no change in the assessment. The assessor is bringing in front of you a consideration of change, which you'll see in the second paragraph. The change in the payment in lieu of taxes would go from $21,000 to $379.57. Again, this is being brought in front of you at this point for consideration. And relative to the boat museum, there is no recommended change from the assessing office. Yeah, and you do not need to make a decision on this tonight. It's my understanding to give it some thought and be able to make a decision going forward.
Yeah, Linda.
Yeah, Brad, I thought I'm fine with the boat museum. In terms of Hearthstone Homes and the ledges, my understanding is that we try to keep it below what they should normally pay because they were having a hard time making their expenses. The ledges, probably 5 or 6 years ago, no longer can cook meals. These are lower income facilities, and I think it makes sense for us to keep it at 21. This is a great benefit to the citizens of our town to have these facilities and have a place which they can afford to go.
Any other comments?
Do you want to do anything with it tonight? Is that what we're saying too, Linda?
My feeling, I would keep it the same as last year. I think that's what I'm assuming that's the 21 was what was last year. And I think Jim was trying to get an idea of where we want to go. If he wants a vote, I'd do a vote, but that's where I am. I don't know where you are.
Put a motion out there.
Okay. I'll make a motion that we keep Hearthstone Homes at 21,000 for the next year.
Second.
There you go.
We have a motion and a second to keep the pilot agreement with Hearthstone Properties at 21,000, same as last year. Any other discussion? Seeing none, I'll have a roll call vote. Linda?
Yes.
Dave Senical?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Dave Bowers? And Brad Harrell votes yes also. Do we also want to have a vote to maintain the one is presented for the New Hampshire Boat Museum?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, if you would, that would be great.
Yep. Was that a motion, Paul?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Second.
A motion and a second to keep the one for the New Hampshire Boat Museum as presented to us, which is the same as last year. Any other discussion? Seeing none, I'll have a roll call vote. Linda?
Yes.
Dave Senical?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Dave Bowers? And Brad Harmon votes yes also. Okay. Next on our agenda is approval to adopt the 2021 IRS standard mileage reimbursement rate.
So, Mr. Chairman, this is an annual event. The IRS in January of every year updates the mileage reimbursement rate. Currently, it's been changed to 56 cents. What we'd like for the board to do is to adopt this as well. The question has been asked, it's your discretion, but would you rather just make this a motion that we continue to follow the IRS recommendations on an annual basis, and we just inform you of those changes? Your discretion on what you want to do with that, but it would streamline the operation a little bit, I think, as opposed to bringing it onto an agenda for approval.
I thought we had done that once before. No?
They generally brought it each year to the board, but we're always, if we're always doing the same federal reimbursement amount, it seems like we should just make a motion that from now on that we the federal reimbursement and be fine with them telling us they put it into well, I would imagine that's what we calculate the budget on, right?
So
Some of the mileage
the budget is already already set when this comes out. So where this has gone down 1.5 cents, that it's a big number, but it shows reduction. If there's an increase, well, we'll have to figure that out in the operating budget going forward.
I'll second Linda's motion.
Now a third it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second in front of us to follow the IRS reimbursement rates for mileage as they present them out to the public. So any other discussion? I think I worded that right.
That was good.
Any other discussion? Pretty close. Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote. Linda?
Yes.
Dave Senical?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Dave Bowers? And Brad Allen votes yes also. All right. Okay, next on the agenda is discussion regarding our deliberative session location change announcement. And the town report continued, so yes, as I think we've kind of put it out there once that deliberative session will be held on Tuesday, February 2nd, with a snow date of February 4th at 7 p.m. at the Kingswood Arts Center at 21 McManus Road in Wolfeboro. The meeting is obviously for the purpose of explanation, discussion, debate of the town's 2021 operating budget and each warrant article. And we will be following all COVID guidelines in place at the time. Obviously, masks will be mandatory to be worn in there. There is social distancing will be marked out and much more available up there than the Great Hall at the Town Hall. So we hope people feel safe to come out and attend the deliberative session and participate in it. So anything else we need to say about the deliberative session portion?
The only thing I would add, Mr. Chairman, is tomorrow afternoon, some of us will be going to the Arts Center to work through the layout of the facility for staff, for the budget committee, for the Board of Selectmen, and for the citizens. So we're hoping that tomorrow we'll have the layout complete, and then we'll be ready to go. I believe as well, a representative from Wolfeboro Community TV will be there to help us out. So hopefully we'll have all of this logistical stuff worked out tomorrow in advance of the deliberative session.
Sounds good. Thank you. All right, why don't we move on to the town report?
So
Do we have?
that
go
is
ahead.
Amy's ball of wax. Amy, are you here to speak to the
I'm here.
report?
Hi. Okay, Board of Selectmen Town Report. Paul sent me some, I don't know, what do we want to call them? Little topics to address. We need to write a summary, or someone does. Oh, are you volunteering? What's that?
Now,
No, it's usually done by the chairman.
Right.
Or the chairman finds somebody to write it for him. That's who's responsible to do this.
That's what Paul wants to do.
He just disappeared.
Yeah,
He did, didn't he?
very conveniently.
Dave Bowers volunteered to write it last year.
Paul went to Plaid.
Can do it if nobody else wants to.
Yeah, Paul likes it.
If you want me to take a stab at it, I'll take, Dave and I maybe can take a stab at it. Amy, send me back the pros that I sent you.
Okay. And then
I looked at it
the
too.
other, yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay,
Amy.
we'll
Go ahead,
get
Amy.
some stuff. We'll send some stuff out and we'll do some drafts, and then the other one that I sent you is gonna be a new report, the Libby's trustees report. If you'll remember, that kind of came out of our annual reporting, and it was suggested that I do an annual report and submit that each year to the New Hampshire charities. Linda, I think she had a question.
Oh, yes, Lynn, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
I would say the chairman should do it.
Well, I'll do one, but not the other.
Is this gonna go in the annual report, Amy?
It is, and Catriona wrote a report that's more in line with the Libby. This report is just going to have the basic information that I need to do in the annual filing, which is the budget, the income, who the trustees are. You see there's a phone number and how you can contact them. Everything that I
When
put
do you
in there
have
is
that
the,
done?
what?
When do you have to have that, when do you need to have that submitted, Amy?
Well, I'm trying to get my report together to go out next week.
Okay, I'll sit.
But
on
the
that.
basics of it are there, Paul. The basics of it are there, so there's no real content.
I'll sit with you on that. I also, Mr. Chairman, I also think that there is something in the master plan that says that the town man, and now that we're passing around the go-do stick, I think the town manager's got to do something for the energy committee to report out on, because I wrote that chapter of the master plan. I think there's something in there that the town manager's got to do some kind of a report on that. I don't know, who's the selectman's rep on that one? Who's the selectman's rep on that one?
I'll just get Nancy Hirschberg to write it,
There
or
you go.
somebody, or the chairman of that committee
There you go.
can do it.
I do think there's something in there, Linda. Seriously, I think there's something that we put in the master plan that said that there would be a short write-up of, of our journey around getting them a little more contribution to less fossil fuels and things of that nature.
No problem, because we have a meeting on Friday. I'll see if I can sign somebody up.
Sounds
I'm
good.
signing people up tonight.
Mr. Chairman, if I could ask anybody who wants to give me a significant, what they believe are one or two top 5 things we would want to speak about in the chairman's annual report. I'll be glad to take your suggestions, send them to me as quickly as you can.
I'll work on that and get something to you.
And Amy, could you send out what I sent out to everybody?
Yes, I'll do that tomorrow.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well,
Anything else, Amy, we need to speak about on the town report?
Well, that's all I have for you. It's coming along. I have all the departments. I'm just finalizing the pieces so it can go out to the printer and some regular reports that we have to have. I just got the trustees today and then we have to put the warrant and whatnot in it.
What does it need to get to the printer so that we have them, will we have these for the deliberative session or be just before the actual election, before the March meeting? March be the date.
We have to have them available to the public by March 2nd. It takes him 2 weeks turnaround, so we're in good timing to have it. They're almost complete.
Thanks.
And then
And the
I'll
warrant
also
article-
note.
Sorry, Bill.
Oh, it's all right. I just wanted to note that Suzanne Ryan had asked about getting budget books too. So along with some of the reports that we're finalizing, the budget, a public budget book will go up to the library and at town hall.
And you'll put it online too, right?
Correct.
Thank you.
Yeah, Linda?
Yeah, we can't put them, they can't do it before that because there may be changes at the deliberative session. So we
Right.
have to wait until the deliberative session's changes are made before they can go to print.
Right.
Yep. Anything else on the town report? All right. Thank you for all the work you're doing on that, Amy. Okay, next on our agenda is other business. I'll just start out with a question. Mr. Pino, have we ever heard anything back from town attorney regarding the MOU yet for the Friends of Living Museum?
Not
We're
yet.
still waiting on that.
He's got it. We have not heard back from him on that particular item as of yet.
Okay, thank you. Yep. Linda?
Yeah, I had Jim send out to the board yesterday as he was sending 2 documents to town attorney from the EDC. They would like to send out a survey to get some kind of an idea of how many people we have, how many employees are here in the winter and how many employees are here in the summer. And in that, they sent out a letter. The first draft had said, vote yes on the dock extensions. And I know that we as government officials can't tell people to vote yes on an item. They have changed it. Their letter to the business owners talks about the extension, talks about the vote on the 9th and the amount. And what they are saying is this project is proposed by the Board of Selectmen and supported by the EDC. And I didn't want them to send it out until I had talked to all of you about making sure you are comfortable with that. It also has a news release. They talk about the Warren article, 2 Warren articles for the docks. They talk about their report, and then they said in submitting their report to the Board of Selectmen, the fall, the EDC supports the extension of the town docks. And then they cite where in the master plan it calls for extension of the docks. So I didn't want them to send it out since they are a subcommittee of the Board of Selectmen. I did have sent a town attorney just to make sure that there wasn't anything, that we shouldn't be said in these 2 letters. They're meeting in a special meeting on Friday at 9 o'clock to approve these, and hopefully we'll have the answer back from town attorney at that time, but I wanted to first check to see if anybody had any issues.
Paul,
No issue. Just so, Jim, we don't have anything back from council on this? Not yet? Okay.
I was in contact with Attorney Puffer late this afternoon. After that, I was in communications with Linda, and I plan on giving him a call early afternoon tomorrow to see where we're at with it.
So I saw some email traffic kind of, whiz by, and it sounded like a concern was raised that a committee of the board shouldn't be engaging in solicitation of a vote. I think wasn't that the substance of it, Linda? That
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, and so I think that's the question. Can they, or are they not soliciting a vote? And we just wait for Attorney Puffer to do what he has to do.
When he said that, they had vote yes. And I agree 100%. You can't say vote yes on a certain. And we pulled that. And that is the question we're checking up. Can you say support? I'm pretty sure you can, but I just felt that we should probably get a confirmation on that.
I think that's professional and the right thing to do.
all right.
So I'll tell them it's fine with the Board of Selectmen for them to go on with the letters as long as we got approval that they're okay by town attorney.
I'm okay with that. As long as town council says we're in good shape, I'm okay with that.
Yep. Anything else under other business this evening?
I have one, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
It's Mr. Senecal's favorite subject. It has to do with communications. I got to get on the agenda of the Board of Selectmen here pretty quickly. We have 1,000 surveys back on Atlantic Broadband, and we sent them out in the December bills, and we opened up the survey online in the month of December. We had 1,000, and there's still some bills that are just coming in, the last tranche of bills that went out. I'm not going to characterize them in front of all of us now, but I would say there are some kudos and there are some concerns that are raised by the public. And I think that we need to share this with the public, and then we need to invite the public into maybe a public input session. Once I get the surveys, and they're being collated now as we speak, our Beverly Woods is doing that. We hope to have some volunteers from Kingswood to help us. But I think we need to share publicly what we are learning from these survey data. So I'll be coming through Jim or maybe through this board asking for some time to spend maybe 30 to 40 minutes with the cable franchise team explaining what we found in these surveys. And I think that'll probably happen over the next handful of weeks. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome, Paul. Thank you. Anything else under other business?
Mr. Chairman, I've got two items that I'd like to address if possible. First item is procedurally regarding the agenda. I received some feedback from a citizen today who would like to see on the agenda specific to the bulk vote. They would like to see the amounts of the weekly manifest. They would like to see the amounts of land use change taxes, whether it's revenue or penalties. They'd like to see the amount of tax refunds or abatements. And they'd also like to see the amounts of exemption and credits. I don't see a problem with this. I just wanted to bring this to the board's attention to see if they have any problems with this procedurally, so that it's in the record, it's read into the record, so that people know exactly what's going on. Thought process?
Yeah, Linda.
I don't have any problem. It's public information, and I think we should provide it for them if there's a one out there to see it. I don't have any problem. As long as it doesn't take a huge amount of time,
That was
you
gonna
know,
be
to get it up, and I don't think it should, but.
No, I think it's a very reasonable ask, and I have no issue with it. I just wanted to make sure that the board was on the same page and didn't have an issue. So anticipate seeing that going forward in your next manifest or agenda, if you don't mind.
If I could try to redeem
Paul.
myself, I think this falls on a lot of this will fall on KC to prep. Again, for the public's benefit, we spend on average $53,000 a week. That's on a $28 million budget. And, you know, we all see the manifests that we approve, and there's a lot in there. So I think it's good that the public will get to see the, you know, I hate to use the word, but the burn rate of the town and the things that we have to go through. I think it's good clarity, as long as we're not going to bury KC with preparing reports.
Yeah, Casey.
No, it'll be quick and easy for me to get the information to Amy. She probably already has it. My concern, though, is it's not just spending that's on that AP manifest. You also have a large check, you know, every month that you pay funds over to the school district or co-op. So, you know, there needs to be a little explanation, because if somebody sees a $3 million weekly manifest, you know, it's just not what we spent on operating the town. It's just could be a cash transaction. So with it, if you choose to do it, there just might need to be a little tutorial going forward, you know, when it spikes up.
Yep, good point. Linda.
Or maybe we should write school district paycheck and the amount, so they understand that that's the amount we owe to the school district. We should be as transparent about that, I would think.
Well, I also think that, you know, usually, I don't know what, you know, your burn rate is, you know, in cash, but sometimes you're making a bond payment. So it's, you know, another, you know, it could be a huge amount. I just don't want people to think that it is actual, you know, spending on running the business of the town. So yes, there might need to just be some footnotes on your bulk vote for the AP manifest. I concur.
Yeah, I mean, a highway project, paying one vendor in a highway project could just, you know, just drive a number up. So yeah, it's not linear.
Okay, perfect. We will work on that going forward. The other item is, and I've spoken with a couple of you. You should have received an email from me late this afternoon. We've run into a little bit of a hiccup regarding warrant Article 13, which is the Pop Whalen Enterprise Fund and the change in methodology to that. So this becomes significantly more complicated than what was initially thought. And the reason is there are some very specific RSAs related to changing the purpose of an enterprise fund. So I had a long conversation with Attorney Puffer this afternoon. We reached out to DRA, had some preliminary conversations with them. But what it really boils down to is investigate and determine what the purpose of the Pop Whalen Enterprise Fund was when it was established. And what I can see here, based on feedback from Linda and what Casey was able to find this afternoon, it looks like the Pop Whalen Enterprise Fund was established by a warrant article in 1997 under warrant article number 15. So we're going to have to investigate that warrant article in relationship to what we want to do going forward. And then we have to hold public hearings and then bring it in front of the voters at deliberative session for a 2/3 majority vote. With that said, as you're well aware, we've got the warrant articles in place. They're numbered. We've done the taping. That's all in place. And we feel that if we completely remove this, it's going to create a significant amount of confusion. So Casey and I had a conversation with Attorney Puffer, and we feel that by placing a non-binding vote or non-binding warrant article here will help to give us, the Board of Selectmen, direction so that we can figure out this whole Pop Whalen thing over the next year. If you don't mind, I'm going to take a second to share the screen so you can read what we have. And we did have a conversation with Attorney Puffer on this late this afternoon. And the article now reads, to see if the voters are in favor of having the Board of Selectmen investigate the purpose for which the Pop Whalen Enterprise Fund was established. Further, to determine if the voters are willing to have the Board of Selectmen investigate making changes to the purpose of the Pop Whalen Enterprise Fund. These changes may include building and infrastructure-related capital expenses funded by general taxation rather than the Pop Whalen Enterprise Fund. Any change to the purpose of the Pop Whalen Enterprise Fund shall be brought to the voters at a subsequent meeting. We think that captures the intent of what we want to do going forward. We've got to investigate the purpose, as alluded to earlier, and it really boiled down to running out of time. So with that said, any comments relative to this warrant article?
I guess, yeah, Joe, I just got one quick one now. This going forward in the warrant article we have in there for the engineering portion of this won't have any effect on that one moving forward. So I think we'd have a problem if we had the whole shebang going like we originally had here. But I think, in my opinion, it seems as though the engineering one is going to be safe to still continue with, and then have this one come in also to.
So we did have that conversation with Attorney Puffer. He feels very comfortable with it based on the fact that it very clearly states in the warrant article for the engineering and scope of work that it is to come from the general fund, general taxation. He felt very comfortable with that. And as well, I don't believe DRA threw any flags on that warrant article whatsoever. So I think we're in good shape there.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments, Paul?
I'm just hung up on the question of purpose. When you're asked, what was the purpose of creating an enterprise fund? Does anybody have an answer to that?
So we actually do, Paul. And
well, there you go.
This is where it gets kind of interesting. So the warrant article 15 in 1997 reads, shall we adopt provisions of RSA 3195C to restrict revenues from the operation of Pop Whalen Ice Arena to expenditures for the purpose of operating and maintaining the Pop Whalen Ice Arena. Such revenues and expenditures shall be accounted for in a special revenue fund to be known as the Pop Whalen Ice Arena Fund, separate from the general fund. Any surplus in said fund shall not be deemed to be part of the general fund accumulated surplus and shall be expended only after a vote by the legislative body to appropriate specific amounts from said fund for a specific purpose related to the purpose of the fund or source of revenue. And that's the warrant article as we have from 1997.
Thank you.
Linda.
Yeah, I would look at the town report for the year before, because that usually has the minutes of the meeting, and you may get some clarity as to the purpose from the way that the minutes, what was talked about at that meeting. My understanding was that they were trying to, as all the other funds, I think it was about the same time they did it with the electric department. I think there was a whole bunch that were moved over in the 1990s And I know the electric fund, it used to be the Wolfeboro Municipal Electric Fund, and then it became its own enterprise fund. So there, I think you'll find a bunch in that time period.
Yeah, so the big takeaway, and we've been finding this out as we dive into it, there's a lot of work that's got to be done on this over the next several months so that we can be prepared for the 2022 warrant to determine how we're going to manage this operation based on, I think, the feeling that I heard from the board. You know, those structural components related to keeping the building in good working order are going to be general government, and the components isolated to the ice arena are under the enterprise fund. But that, in my opinion, is a change of purpose based on the previous warrant article, and we'll get that figured out going forward.
Now, you'd mentioned earlier that do we have public hearings and stuff to go through to get this so we could put this one on? Do we have the time frame to be able to do this, or?
No, so that's the other thing is, if we do this going forward and we actually do change the purpose going forward, we would have to hold public hearings in advance of the deliberative session. When we got this warrant article, the original draft done, we were beyond the time frame of having that noticing done, and now we are completely beyond being able to notice any type of meeting. But this, Mark, feels captures what we're trying to do. It doesn't screw up the order, and it basically gives us a feeling of what the voters feel like in the community.
Okay. Yeah, Linda?
Yeah, I think, as I recall, I was the one who wanted the warrant article asking about whether the voters wanted to change. And part of the reason I wanted was we had the big warrant article, and that kind of went away. And then we came back with this other, and I think maybe we just lost a little focus here. But I really like doing it this way because we're asking for some change in structure. And I think it's good to know how the public feels about it, which we can get an advisory look now, and then we can go to the details, and we should have those public hearings. And I think this is the right thing to do.
Yep.
So you're saying keep the warrant article as is and put it out there?
The warrant article that he just read that asked for advisory to go forward. My understanding is the one that we have. We don't have a bonded one anymore. We only have the one for $125,000, in which we stated it was going to come out of the general fund. We aren't talking about changing any of the structure of that fund. At that point, we're just asking, will you give us the money out of the enterprise? I mean, out of the general fund to do this thing. I think they're very different. I think there's a clear line between why we were looking when we had the bonded one to what the one we have right now.
I agree. I think I think this is an itch that we've needed to scratch for a bit, and I think Linda's or this what we're going to write up now and put to the public is exactly right. We need to find out how revenues go into that entity and how costs flow in from that entity. And we have to make sure that we either assign costs to revenues or we go to the voters and we say, hey, these are going to be allocated or coming out of general fund. We should have that clear. It should be unambiguous to people. And I think we should take the time and do that right.
Yep. Okay, anything else?
No, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And again, this is non-binding, so there's no money associated with it. There is no need for a vote from the board. So thank you for taking the time to let me discuss that.
Thank you.
Wax out.
Anything else under other business before we move on? All right, committee reports. Linda, we'll start with you if you'd like.
Okay. We all were at a bond hearing, I think it was last Friday, at the end of the week. I had an EDC meeting, and I have talked about the letters that they're trying to write in the survey. And before this meeting, I got to join Jim and Paul at a budget committee meeting in which they did some minutes and took some votes on warrant articles, and that's all I have.
Thank you, Linda. Dave Senical.
No meetings this week.
Thank you, Dave. Paul.
On hearing, budget committee meetings.
Okay, thank you. Dave Bowers.
No meetings this week.
Okay. Yeah, last night I had a planning board meeting, pretty much a work session there going over things. And I actually got back into able to attend the Wolfeboro Community TV meeting this morning. So that was interesting to get back in. It's been about a year since I've been able to attend those. So look forward to continuing on with that. And as Linda mentioned and everybody else, we had the bond hearings here last Friday. We all got together and had that meeting. So that was it for me. Town manager's report.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman. So budgets, bond hearings, warrant article work. I'd like to thank the department heads and the board. Yesterday, we did the recording for the warrant article presentation. It seemed to go quite well. I think we're really starting to figure out this virtual format. So it went well. And just to reiterate to the voters, if all warrant articles were to pass, the warrant articles would be 95.9 cents per $1,000 of assessed valuation. The operating budget, if passed, would be $4.63 per $1,000 of assessed valuation, for a total estimated tax rate of $5.59 per thousand, which is a 33-cent increase compared to the 2020 tax rate. There's a lot of projects on this. A lot of these projects as well are being absorbed by some unrestricted or unassigned fund balance. But all in all, we've got this done. I'd like to thank everybody for their dedication and patience. With that said, like I advised, tomorrow some of us will be meeting relative to the deliberative session setup. And then again, as you alluded to, the deliberative session is February 2nd, 7 p.m. at the Arts Center with a inclement weather date of February 4th at 7 p.m. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions from the press? Melissa, you out here with us this evening?
Hi, yes, I am. I would like to receive a copy of your PowerPoint with all your warrant articles, if I may. Are they all approved yet?
Yes, I can get that to you tomorrow, Alyssa.
Okay. Thank you very much. There's a lot of information there.
Yeah, there is. Anything else, Alyssa, or is that it?
That's it. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Public input, our second session of public input. We have somebody out there who would like to ask us or make comments.
Hello, Brad. Suzanne.
Hi, Suzanne.
Hi.
Hi.
Regarding the budget books and warrant articles at the library, I appreciate that it was brought up again, but I would like to clarify that they are always sent over before the deliberative session, and should there be any changes along the way, those supplemental sheets are sent over and the library attaches them into the book. So it's necessary to have that pre-deliberative. And it's always been that way. Last year, I I didn't hound you about it, but it's like to see that go back into that practice. The second thing, I had three things, but I can't remember the third one. But the second thing is regarding Pop Whalen. As you know, I've been hounding you all about that for the year prior to Jim coming aboard. And especially when the Back Bay Hockey was talking about putting an addition on. At that point, I had deep dived into all the town records and the history of the Pop Whalen. And so I would, if I can find my file, if I didn't get discouraged and burn it, I'll forward that along to Jim. But definitely.
Great deal, Suzanne. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm definitely glad to see this surface. It's, as I've said previously, it's been a mess. And so I'm glad to see, because it's surfaced, that it will get straightened out one way or the other, and whatever the voters decide, so be it. And the third thing I can't think of, so thank you and good night.
All right, thank you, Suzanne.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mary.
I just thinking about the temporary event permits that you considered this evening reminds me that I would like to offer to everyone that we have the community calendar of events, which we will publish anything happening in the town. So please think of submitting any event that's coming up to us at the Chamber of Commerce so that we can include it in the calendar of events. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mary. Do we have anybody else out there this evening?
I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
I'll second.
Motion and a second to adjourn. I'm not even going to ask for discussion. Linda?
Oh, Brad?
Yeah.
Uh,
Okay, Suzanne. Well, what you?
Come on, Suzanne.
I thought of the third thing when I heard Mary speak up. The other thing is regarding the Economic Development Commission wishing to put out a flyer promoting lobbying their point of view. I take issue with using taxpayers' dollars to do that. If a couple of them wanted to step outside of the commission with a private citizen and do it, there'd be no problem. I'm sure they may be able to do it legally, but ethically, I think it's not appropriate.
Yeah, Linda, want to comment?
Thank you for taking the time.
Suzanne, they're not putting out a flyer, they're doing a survey. And that is a cover letter, part of their survey on why they want the information. It's going to a targeted group. It's not being a flyer that they're handing out to promote it.
Okay. Okay.
Well, is a survey promoting their view on the extension of the docks?
No, their survey is asking how many employees they have, what months of the year do they have different numbers of employees.
Okay.
All right, thank you. So we'll continue on with a motion and a second to adjourn. Linda?
Yes?
Paul?
Yes.
Dave Senical?
Yeah.
Dave Bowers?
Jane.
And Brad Emerald's yes also. Thank you, everybody. Have a good evening.